My name is Jacob Ainsworth, and I'm one of the scholarship recipients for the year 2025 through the Woodworkers Guild. First and foremost, I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity. And with that opportunity, I took that grant and I went and learned how to make traditional Windsor chairs. This class took place in Belvidere, Illinois under William Boyle, who we'll henceforth refer to as Bill. That's what he goes by. And with Bill, I made this continuous arm rocking chair. Bill was trained by Curtis Buchanan, who is the original designer of this chair. He's just a really fun guy to take a class with. I couldn't recommend it enough. I learned a lot from him, and it was kind of an adventure. Now, I myself, I caught the bug of woodworking right after I graduated college. What was that, about 6-7 years ago here. And I took the Unplugged workshop with Tom Casper very early on in that, and after that, continued classes with him. Now, with that, I was doing mostly fine woodworking, all kiln-dried lumber. This really threw me for a loop because this chair was split out of a log. It was completely wet when I got to it. The only part that was dry was the seat. So while I can't get to every aspect of what it took to make this chair in these 15 minutes I've got here, I'm hoping I can teach you a few tips and tricks that helped me a lot when I was learning how to work with green wood here. All right, so one of the first things that really threw me for a loop with chair making in general was the concept of green woodworking. Now, I've been working with kiln-dried lumber as long as I've been woodworking, and many of us know that there's a right and a wrong way to remove wood. You go the wrong way, you get tear out, so you typically want to do something like playing with the grain or whatever you say. Now, that's true with green wood as well, but there are some other concepts within the wood that I just was unaware of entirely, and I'm going to review them. So when we're splitting out wood for our legs and for our spindles, checking is a very common problem. And I don't know if you can see, this log does have some checking on it. It's a little older. It's not quite dry yet, but we are getting some checking. Now, as you make these small parts, it becomes an increasingly large issue. So, within this log here, there are 3 planes. Basically, we have the longitudinal plane, which is the length of the log. It's not any of these faces. We have the tangential plane and the radial plane. Now, the tangential plane is the wood plane running parallel to the growth rings. The radial plane runs perpendicular to the growth rings, so that's this face. An easy way to think of the tangential plane is basically the bark. Every growth ring layer in is on the tangential plane. So when you're removing wood from this side in, or just really parallel with the growth rings, you're removing wood from the tangential plane. I promise I'm going to try to say that word a little bit less from here on out. Now, the tangential plane, when you're removing wood from it, it's a little bit more tricky. It wants to tear out, but it's very easy to remove wood very quickly. That will come up again later. The radial plane, however, is very buttery and nice to remove wood from. It's a little bit harder. You're going to have to put your back into it, but it leaves a very nice surface. So, this will come up repeatedly throughout the video, unfortunately. I'm going to try to keep the vocab to a minimum, but it's very important as we show basic riving techniques along with shave horse exercises. All right, welcome back. So the first step in making a Windsor chair is to crack your parts out of a green log. Now in my case, that was a ash log. This is not the same one, but it is a very straight grain piece of ash. And in doing so, you're going to do a process called riving. Now, as we go through and rough all of our lumber out of here, my first thought was, why don't we just saw this sucker up and rough mill it? That's how my brain works. I've only worked with kiln-dried lumber. And the answer is simple, but it took me a little while to get a grasp on, so I came up with a visual helper, hopefully. Basically, if I was to saw right through this, you can see with our friend here, there's some serious curvature here. And while it doesn't extend in, let's just pretend it does. Now, if I was to saw right through that, there might be 2 parts in there that are no longer connected. So if I was to bend this into a back, we would end up with something like this happening. Now, I would bend it, put it in my form, and those pieces that no longer connect, they're going to break out and your back is ruined. Say you cut half of it off, same deal. Your back is not going to be quite complete, and actually, in doing so, you're going to have extra pieces on the bottom. Now, obviously wood's not playing cards, but it's the best I could come up with. So you'll have to excuse me, I've got to read some notes here for this one, but when we're using our fro to split this out, basically we would slam the wedge in. It's relatively blunt. You use a good whacking stick. For me, I just had an extra log laying around and made this. Takes 5 minutes on the lathe. You whack it in. I'm not going to do it on my workbench. And you can actually influence the crack using a fro. So as you're pulling this down, you're cranking on it. By the way, never put your hand down here. I whacked my hand countless times. And you're thinking, how did you do that? Well, I still got all my fingers, so I'm doing something right, but it happened a lot. But anyways, as we're cracking this out, if you see the crack start to run out towards the front, you can avoid this, basically. So your thick part should always be on the bottom. And if that thick part is on the bottom, as I'm pulling through this, let me see if I can pull this to the side. As I'm pulling through this, you're gonna pull the crack back to center. So say it starts to run all the way through, back out the side, I would flip this around because now this would be the side with more mass, and continue cracking it out and bring that crack back towards the center. It's not foolproof, but I've seen it work quite a few times now, and it's pretty neat and it's pretty quick. All right, so next I want to talk about just kind of how greenwood likes to crack. Now we talked about the radial, and there's that word again, good Lord, tangential plane, good Lord. Basically, if you turn the wood to a cylinder, so this is a leg blank that I haven't shaped yet. I've got about 30 of them in the shop. If you turn it to a cylinder, you're relieving a lot of that tangential pressure that causes the radial plane to crack. Now, I turned this back in November. It is currently May, and I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see, but there's no cracking, none. And given there's some wax on the end here, and that's probably helping a little bit, but it's definitely not sealed up perfectly. There's a lot of wood showing. So it's very important whenever you've got your legs or any part like this, round it over as soon as you can. It really does save you a lot of time later, especially if you're going to break apart a log, get a lot done right at once, have a bunch of legs ready to go for when you want to make a chair. Just round it over so it doesn't crack up. And, well, I think that's it for this section. See you guys in about 5 seconds. All right, so we're gonna go over how I make my backs really quick. Luckily, I had a few of these already cracked out and ready to go. Now, again, we want to talk about tangential and radial faces. So on this log, we can see that the tangential face is this face, and the radial are these two faces. So as I go through, I will start with this tangential face to maximize basically my final wood. And once that's flat, I rotate it and get a perpendicular 90-degree angle to that one. So I'm making a rectangle at the end of the day here. So some people start with radial and some people start with tangential. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I have it on good authority from Bill. It's really what you're comfortable with. But process is process, so I'm gonna go ahead and follow it. Now, we'll go over really quick. Oh, by the way, lovely shape horse that Plate 11 designed. Very easy to adjust here. Very functional. So, like I said, we're going to start on the tangential face, and I just want to go over really quick how I remove lumber. So, I skew the actual blade like such and pull it towards me. Like I said, the tangential face has a tendency to rip out. We're kind of seeing that right now. But as I go up, and I will work my way all the way up, we're just flattening this face here. Right. So, after I would go ahead and square this and square one of the radial faces, I would take my marking gauge and basically mark the final thickness on both flat faces. You wouldn't want to mark on the rough wood, it's not going to help you at all. So then as you're paring away, say you started with tangential, move to radial, you've made your marks, and you're going to start with your tangential face again, and then pare your radial face away last. Because like we said, tangential, it's easier to remove material pretty quickly, whereas with radial, you're moving it a little bit slower, so that's the least amount of material to remove at that point, and you'll want to have the easiest time with it. So, all right, So we're going to get into the active steam bending and really forming your back here, but before we get into that, I want to talk about the physics of the actual bend because it's important. Now, wood is basically just a bundle of straws all rubber banded together, a bunch of strings of cellulose. So when you bend, depending on which plane you're bending, which plane is facing out, you're going to have different kinds of force. So if you have your radial plane facing out, you're going to exert tension. And basically what's going to happen is these cards, it's kind of like our straws here, they'll bend and they will allow each other to basically rub against each other into the correct place. You know, they don't have to be perfectly flat at the end. Now, if we're talking about the tangential plane, I could try to bend this, but I just rip a bunch of cards in half. I'm not going to do that. But I do have a mid-century modern chair back that's not formed or anything yet that I had in the garage that I had the tangential face bent instead of the radial face. Now what happens in that case is compression more than tension. So we can actually see these compression marks. You can see them on the camera, I don't know. Basically all these little flecks, they are where the wood compressed instead of sliding past each other. So fortunately, it doesn't really matter. It's still going to be a nice chair back. But a lot of chair makers like to have the face be radial because that's where your quarter sawn, like your little ray flecks, do show up. So it looks a little bit nicer. That's all I got for the physics there. All right, now let's talk steam box. So basically right here, I've made a really traditional exterior grade plywood steam box. It's about 8 feet long. I just lopped up the sheet of plywood into 4 quarters. One thing that's very important is you want to leave room for a little bit of air to get out. It is steam, you don't want to make bomb. And you do want to have the front elevated a little bit, which it's not currently. This sucker is heavy. So that the water can drip out the back. Now, one key detail is just the timing in general. Typically, the rule of thumb is about 60 minutes for an inch thickness. So for my continuous armchair, it was about 45 minutes. For a loop back chair, you'd be looking at 30 to 40 for a 5/8 inch thickness bend. With a mid-century modern chair back, like the one I showed in the previous video, that took a significant amount of time, and it just takes a little bit longer to really fully prepare that to bend. And even though that was green wood, I actually went ahead and soaked that wood prior to bending. And in doing that, unfortunately, my ash has dried out. So for my loop back chairs that I'm making right now, I do have to soak them after I've turned them into their little 1 inch by 7/8 inch final size. Now, really simple design here, just a PVC tube. I glue the bottom on, the top comes off. And you soak it for about 2-3 days prior to putting it in the steam box. You do not want to have your piece resting on the bottom of your steam box. You do want to have it elevated somehow, otherwise you're going to end up with a side that is relatively dry, which might crack. Alright. Now, one thing that's very important, I'm going to walk off frame really quick. If your piece is dry and you don't soak it, it might be ready to bend, but its memory is going to be a little bit too strong, and it's going to do something tragic like this. Now this bent like a dream when I did put it in the form, but even with the steaming, it just couldn't hold its own, and it did break apart. I keep this around just for a reference, so I don't forget to do that. That's it for steam. Now, after your wood comes out of your steaming booth here, you have to get it on your form really quick here. Now this is my loop back form. I've got holes that I put dowels in, and I'll put a wedge in between the dowel and the form. I've got some holes up here to actually clamp the piece into place. You can add or remove these as necessary. This is the one I've used a few times now, and I've added them where I've needed them. After you get it out of the steamer, you've got like 30 to 60 seconds. It has to be really quick to get it on here before you'll start to lose that elasticity. The lignum in the the sugar in the wood is going to start to harden again. So you do need to get it on there extremely quick. I recommend doing a dry run where you practice putting one on, even if it doesn't bend, obviously, just to see how that works. Now, after it's on the form, you gotta let it dry out a little bit. You got 2 options here. You can either dry it in a kiln or air dry it. If you're in a kiln, it'll be dry as soon as 24 hours. If you air dry it, it's gonna be anywhere between 48 hours and a week. You can also take it off the form as long as you're supporting the points of the bend all throughout. I did it on that one with string, and it held fairly nicely until it didn't. There is one last thing to note. No matter how well it bends, no matter how perfect it is in the form, you're going to have something called spring back. So the wood is going to spring back between 2 and 5%. It's a weird number, that's what the internet says it is. So it's going to spring back out just a little bit. It's going to want to retain its original form, but it shouldn't go much further than that if it's done correctly and you've had proper drying time. All right, real quick here, I just wanted to talk about the shaping of the seat and what makes it comfortable. So this seat is pine. I don't know if I've said that yet, and pine is a very common wood used especially with painted Windsor chairs. It seems like it wouldn't be strong enough, but it's great. The whole design of Windsor chairs in general, they actually tighten up over time, so it's a great wood, very stable. Now, if this was a hardwood seat, you'd use a tool called an adze for that initial wood removal. An adze is a rounded axe. It's kind of shaped like that, and it removes wood in a hacking motion. You can start from the butt there and work your way out. Now, I took a drill with a depth stop and found my lowest points in the seat plane and actually drilled 2 depth stopped holes. That way I'd know when I'd get there. And again, I didn't use an adze. This is pine. I used an in-shave. This is a Lucy and Avery one. It's what I had in the class. Works pretty nicely. And you use that to come in and actually shape the seat. Now I'm going to try and tilt this forward to show you. Basically, you can take this rounding tool, and with its case on, because I'm not refinishing this guy again, and you can bring out your shape all the way around. You can even come out through here, and you want to avoid touching your crest there. Now, the crest is nice. It's really just for looks, but it does create this nice pattern for your seat where you know exactly where you're supposed to carve the legs out, and well, obviously you know where the butt's going to go, and well, your legs separate, so that's what the crest is for. Now, after you're done roughing it out with the end shave, you use a tool called a Travisher. This is, I can't actually remember where I got this guy, but it's very smooth, and it's kind of like the finishing step. It's not quite sanding, but it's almost like planing, where you're getting to a very, very nice finish. And again, same process, very similarly shaped. You can see it'll kind of float in there, so it's round enough that I can get anywhere in there and shape this seat as needed. All right, real quick here, I'd like to talk joinery. So Windsor chairs are pretty cool because intrinsically over time, the joints actually just get tighter. And the reason that happens is because they're all tapered tenons. Now, tapered tenon, we have a tapered reamer here. Basically, the post ends here are all tapered down to a 6-degree tenon that's flat and goes through the seat, whether it be from the top or the bottom. Now, to make those tenons, you shape them the best you can on the lathe and come right up to it. But when that's done, I made these nice, handy little, almost like pencil sharpeners. Really, it's the same idea that you take and you get that perfect 6-degree taper. And I made these with my tapered reamer, so we get exactly what we're looking for. And obviously, if I really jam that in there, you get a really, really tight fit. Oh gosh. So, there are a couple of different options for these. You don't have to go and buy these. Veritas makes them. I think there's a couple options. And then as far as a tapered reamer, I use a 6-degree tapered reamer. That's what Curtis Buchanan uses. That's what Bill Boyle uses. So I have this metal one that you can use with a drill. I found this to be pretty aggressive, and I actually really liked the tactile feedback that hand tapered reamer provided. All right, lastly here, I just want to take a minute to really express my heartfelt gratitude to the Minnesota Woodworkers Guild for this just great opportunity. I mean, I learned so much, and it was really a wonderful experience. I hope you guys were able to take some away from this as well. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them via email. And I'm making more chairs right now, so hopefully I learned some more and I can help some more. I can't recommend this class with Bill Boyle enough. Incredibly smart guy, he's a great mentor, and it's a totally one-on-one class. You just don't get that anymore. It was pretty cool. If you guys have any desire to continue learning about chair making after this, Curtis Buchanan, the guy who designed this chair and was Bill's mentor, he has a lot of videos on YouTube. really detailing the process all the way through for multiple different chairs. So, and last but not least, I really want to say thank you to everyone for watching this video. I hope you've all gotten something out of it, and I'm looking forward to hearing from some of you.